For 25 years, the Teriet Ndorobos, a minority group who are part of the Sabiny tribe in Bukwo district in Sabay sub-region in eastern Uganda, have entirely depended on well-wishers to survive. They were evicted by the government in their Crado land in Mount Elgon Forest after it was gazetted as a national park more than 3 decades ago.
We lived there until the year 1999, February 24th, when in the morning, very early in the morning at around 5 o'clock, we had alarms and even bullet shoots. So when we got up, we thought these were the Pokots which used to be raiding our people, because they had come one time and raided us.
The Pokot is a tribe that lives in Kenya's western region in West Pokot County and in eastern Uganda, specifically in Amudat district. Until a decade ago, the Pokots were rampantly stealing livestock of the Sabiny people and even killing them, although they both belong to the Kalenjin group. But on that fateful day on 24th February 1999, the Pokots were not responsible for the attacks on the Ndorobos. Instead, the Ugandan security forces reportedly launched an attack on the very people they were supposed to protect.
The police, the UA forces, and then the UPDF, with even the red tops. So they had burned all the houses, all the granaries, all the animals were taken, which the animals they had got. They gathered the animals, the livestock, and they took almost all of them.
The security forces left the Ndorobos without shelter and food, the critical basic needs for the survival of any human being. The community that lived peacefully in their Crado land for decades was suddenly rendered helpless and homeless. They had no one to run to for protection, nor anywhere to seek refuge. Their lives were in danger deep in the thick Mount Elgon forest bushes, where they were exposed to unforgiving wild animals like lions and hyenas.
Now the soldiers continued for several days coming there hunting us, until some of us were living under rocks, others under big trees.
Some of the vulnerable Ndorobos, especially the aged, women and children, died in the process. When the situation became unbearable, those who were lucky enough to survive decided to run to the lowlands of Bukwo district, where they were sheltered and fed by good Samaritans, their fellow Sabiny people. But their lives have never been the same again. It is more than 2 decades and the Ndorobos are still wandering without a place to call home. Their former home is now occupied by wild animals. Some of them have been living here in Kapkoros in Bukwo district in a 1-acre piece of land that was donated to them by a good Samaritan 14 years ago. Here, they have a clear view of what was once their homeland because it is barely 15 kilometers away. The government has over the years pledged to resettle the Ndorobos, but that promise is yet to be fulfilled. Although government supported them with food and tents between 2011 and 2015, that support is no more.
Several government officials have come here and were promising us, right from our MPs, ministers, the Deputy Prime Minister, General Moses Ali brought the tents, even the Prime Minister, that is the Right Honorable Ragana Rugunda, came up to here and addressed us in 2017 and promised us that he was going to resettle us within a month.
Several other top government officials who were in office between 2011 and 2017 visited the Ndorobos and literally told them that they would be resettled, but those promises were simply hot air. On 16th January 2016, the then Inspector General of Police, General Kale Kayura, visited the Kapkoros IDP camp where the Ndorobos live and wrote in the visitor's book that we shall solve the problems that you face, but the very problems he said would be solved persist nearly 10 years later. The then State Minister for Disaster Preparedness and Refugees, Musa Ichweru, visited the Ndorobos in their IDP camp on 18th April 2016. Concerned about the situation, he indicated on the visitor's book that he had gone there for resettlement purposes. To date, that resettlement has not happened. The former Minister of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, Professor Ephraim Kamuntu, also went to see the displaced Ndorobos on 9th February 2017. He too wrote in the visitor's book that the issues would be addressed. On that same day, the then Prime Minister Ruhakana Rugunda was accompanied by other government officials, including Minister Musa Echweru, who had visited a year earlier. But the people they sought to resettle are still stuck in an internally displaced camp. Some believe that whatever help they were due to get was complicated when President Museveni dropped Ruhakana Rugunda as the Prime Minister, replacing him with Robin Nabanja. Our attempt to get a comment from the current Prime Minister on the situation of the Ndorobo are still unsuccessful. However, an insider in the office of the Prime Minister who is privy to the unfulfilled relocation promise of the displaced Ndorobos said that the process got stuck midway because funds were never availed to facilitate the relocation.
Remember, these people were pushed out from 1999. Up to now, nobody has come in to solve the problem, even when government officials have been coming.
Last year, when we brought this issue into Parliament, they promised us that there is a fund that's set aside to help the communities that are suffering. And government kept saying they're going to resettle them. To date, they've never done so.
But the government, every other day, if we've been following the speeches of our leaders, the planning documents, the efforts to resettle people is there.
In terms of population of those ones in Teriet camp, there are 169 families. And as time has been going on, you realize that these people have also been giving birth. The population has been growing, and now the number also is increasing as the government delays to resettle these people.
So the internally displaced persons here at Teriet camp in Bukwo district are hopeful that government will one day relocate them, but their hopes keep on diminishing every day. And so they put up this church here where they meet every Friday and Sunday to encourage each other and put their hope and trust in God. The Equal Opportunities Commission recently undertook a mapping exercise to document the marginalized communities in Uganda. Petwa Babiria Isabiria, the Commission's principal education officer, says they are aware of the plight of the Teriet Ndorobos whom they recently visited.
The sufferings are still the same. They seem not to be resettled up to now. And what I know that I may not echo, but there is a consent judgment that was taken between the community and the government, and that consent judgment has never been implemented. We want to follow up on the different components of that consent judgment, and we want also to know why it has not been implemented.
In his parish development model performance assessment tour in Sabei sub-region in December 2024, President Museveni said government would resettle the internally displaced people in the country. He acknowledged that the promise included the Ndorobos in Sabei sub-region, but he made a similar promise in 2016 and 2021 when he had gone to Sabei sub-region for his presidential campaigns. It remains to be seen if President Museveni will finally fulfill this latest promise this time round. Daniel Kibet, NTV.